call the Ulster County Planning Board meeting of October 6th to order. Robert, do you want to do the
I can do it, Robert. I'll do the roll if you don't mind, Robert.
All right, I have the paper here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Pecora. I see Roxanne.
It's on mute.
She's on mute. No, we know she's here. Mr. Gadali. Glenn?
I missed that. I didn't know if you called me or not.
I just did.
Okay.
Mr. Cohen.
Here.
Mr. Conyers excused. Mr. McCarthy.
Here.
Mr. Hanson's excused. Miss Lanzetta.
Here.
There you go. Mr. Gott. Sorry, Miss Gatto.
Here.
Mr. Bogus.
I'm here.
I'm
Mr.
here
Wilkin?
now. I figured how to make it work.
Mr. Wilkin.
Here.
Mr. Baden.
Here.
Mr. Brown's. Mr. Lavity.
Here.
Miss Welton.
Here.
Mr. Watkins. Mr. Almquist. Mr. Markowitz.
He has to be excused, I think.
No, he's on.
He's there.
Oh, he said he was going to be late, I thought.
Oh,
Okay,
he's
thank
there.
you.
Let's see. Mr. Travers. Mr. Murray. Just lost somebody.
Murray's the one that emailed in.
Yeah, he said he's going to be excused to join late.
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
And Mr. Gagliardi.
Here.
Okay. Oh, somebody just came in. Oh, Victor just came back. All right, we got a quorum.
All right. Hopefully everybody got a chance to review the minutes. Any comments or corrections on the minutes?
I'll move to accept them.
The
I'll
second.
second it.
Okay, I guess we're going to go back to this opposed to it. Anybody opposed to the minutes? Any abstentions? Okay, then the minutes are approved. Has anybody got any education or training opportunities? I don't have any of my own.
Yeah, Drew, I got an email. The Dutchess County Planning is, they have a couple more sessions coming up. And I sat in one today, Dennis, you may know about this. It's the American Planning Association is doing the full month of October, every Wednesday and Friday. They're doing either one or two sessions each day for a flat rate fee. You can pick and choose which ones you want to attend. You just, once you sign up, you just click on the link. So I was able to get to one of them today. Unfortunately, I didn't get to the second one I had planned to, but there's a number of them, and I think you can probably still sign up.
You have a link for that, Mike?
I'll put it in the chat or I'll send it to everybody. I thought I had sent it to Mary Ann when it first came out at the end of last month, but maybe I didn't.
Yeah, she sent it out because it's also the New York Planning Federation. They're doing it together.
Right.
That's what that one I remember. I don't remember something from the APA, but that one I remember from New York.
I'm on their mailing list. I did get it from them directly too. So,
Mike, can you send along the one from the Dutchess County Planning Federation?
Mike, you're on mute. Okay.
Sorry, I'll send both.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Moving right along, is there any community reports? Everybody's pretty quiet tonight on that. All right, I'll
Drew, if I can ask a question, if there's anybody on from the local level knows how your community is proposing to spend the American Recovery funds, American Recovery Act funds, I'd appreciate an update on those.
I can tell you what Olive is doing. We're looking right now. I'm not sure I can explain this because Jim Safranco, our supervisor, has been doing most of it, but you are allowed to, I'm going to call it, give bonuses to employees from back to March of 2020 I think, into March of 2021 for people that were working during COVID and were essential or at risk. So we're looking at giving a significant number of our people a bonus of some kind. It's not very much. I think we're maxed out at $1,000 for sure for any one person. The other thing we're trying to figure out is we're in desperate need of replacing our salt shed. And there's a part of this ARP that you can qualify for some things as long as it meets the Clean Water Act. So we're trying to figure out if we can actually put some money towards that. But we haven't actually spent any money at this point, but we're working on plans for some of it.
So a little bit of infrastructure and a little bit of, how much do you have, Drew?
I think it's 346,000, I believe.
Drew, is that the total amount or just the first payment?
Total, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Total.
Dennis, Rochester is getting about 650 to 660. I don't remember the exact amount. We had ordered new playground equipment this year. One of the ARPA things is recreation and outdoor usage. So we're reimbursing ourselves for that playground purchase. We also had planned to install it in-house until we got the manual that's 110 pages long. So we're now hiring the vendor's installer to install it, and we're going to pay for that. We're considering similar for the, it's called premium pay, that any of the employees that were related to COVID work can be paid essentially a bonus. We're also looking at updating our communications equipment. We found during all this Zoom that we were out on YouTube, and now so we're now purchasing better cameras, better microphone system, so we can continue to broadcast that on YouTube for all our town meetings. And then we're looking into broadband, but trying to get Spectrum to communicate with us is, as usual, next to impossible. So.
Yeah, and if the infrastructure bill passes, there's money in broadband for that as well. So at the congressional level, it's a big if, but if it does, there's money in there for that.
One additional thing on our side, Mike mentioned the playground equipment. We lost some playground equipment due to a storm and a tree falling through ours. So we got new equipment installed in the spring. So we're looking at using some of that money to pay for that the insurance did not pay for. And just today, Jim talked about putting a couple of large monitors in our meeting hall to allow for better communication, just like Mike just said. Those are some small things we're looking at.
Drew, if you want, tell Jim to reach out to me, because I've found where it's allowed. Some of these were questionable, and I found the language where they actually, it won't be questionable. So.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
The Village of Saugerties is looking at some infrastructure improvements, such as work down at the sewer plant and some other water and wastewater improvements, but that's to be determined later point in time. But definitely some work down there at the sewer plant and some more upgrades in the village so far. And we're getting to the tune total 300 and I could be wrong, it's like 330,000 and change, or that's the total amount.
Yep.
Scott McCarthy with the town of Lloyd. I think after speaking with the supervisor 3 weeks ago, we were doing some infrastructure work too with the money that he had received for the town. So we're pretty much doing the same as most towns are.
Going to build that water line down to the wine village, Scott?
That one I don't know yet. That maybe the ones that need to be repaired first.
Could be, right?
Yes.
All right. If there's nothing more.
And we had our garlic festival in Saugerties this past weekend, and I want to thank UCAT. There are 3 drivers that they sent to us for doing a great job supplying the shuttle service up there, especially during COVID. They did a great job.
Good. Anyone else? All right, planning board reports. On the chairman report, Mary Ann had sent out some reports. One was expiring terms, and I noticed that there's 11 of our members that their term expires the end of this year. So if you haven't done it already, reach out to your legislative body to make sure you get reappointed. And correct me if I don't say this right, Dennis, but even if they don't reappoint you, you're still a member until they do something.
Yeah, until you're replaced.
Yeah.
Uniform Procedure Act provides for essentially you can continue to serve until replaced, even though your term's expired. We're going to send letters out, but I was quite frankly, we're shocked about the number of people that are expiring. It's that attention to staggered appointment processes that they're supposed to serve out the terms, and obviously we've lost some ability to stagger appointments, and so I'm not sure of a correction yet. My sense is we'll just appoint everybody for the next 4-year term.
And also,
clearly we haven't been staggering appointments because this many shouldn't essentially expire at the same time.
almost half the board.
Yeah.
Also, there's 3 of them that expired a year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, we've pinged those communities. Kingston is one. I think Mark Watkins in Shongum is another one.
Right, and both Rosendale members.
Yeah, we've pinged those communities and have not been successful in getting an answer, but we'll try it one more time, as they say.
All right.
No, Dennis, this is Mark Watkins. My term comes up at the end of the year, but
Oh, sorry, Mark.
there was 4 years that I was on the board, and the town didn't feel, just so that you guys know, that at their reorg meeting, they put me on the board at the county, but they never sent the paperwork in. So I've already asked John Valk to get that taken care of. So hopefully he'll do it at the meeting tomorrow night.
Okay, that's great.
Very good. Also, Mary Ann sent out training, so please take a look at that. If you've got training that's not on her list as far as hours, make sure she knows about it.
Drew, it's Mike Baden. Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Dennis, since we've been on Zoom, I know a number of our alternates have been attending the meetings on the other side of the meeting as alternates. I don't know if there's any record of that, but because all of us as members get 15 minutes a meeting, could the alternates that have been attending these meetings by Zoom as a member of the public, essentially, can we extend that same 15 minutes of training to them?
Yes. How's that, Mike?
Yeah, because they're hearing the same thing we're hearing. I know my alternate comes almost every meeting. So I'm thinking of, there are others as well, I believe, so.
Yeah, I might be able to comb through the logs of people who attended. I don't know if I can, but I may delete a lot of that stuff out, but I might be able to
Yeah,
find
I
stuff.
wasn't sure. It popped in my head today and I thought I would ask, so.
Okay. Thank you.
And one other report that Mary Ann sent out was the attendance. If you would just check that and make sure she's got your attendance accurate for the year.
I didn't get that. So I didn't get either one of these reports, attendance or training. I guess I need to ask her about it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Amanda, we can get them to you. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Okay. And I got one other thing. I'm dealing with a very minor medical issue, so I might have to step out of the meeting for about a minute. Hopefully not, but if I do, that's what it's about. I'll try not to disrupt the meeting in that process. That's all I've got, and I don't think there's any committee reports at this point in time. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dennis, for a financial report.
Sure. We still remain in good shape with the existing budget. So just be aware of that. We're in really good shape. We've got a number of transportation projects that we're spending down some of the fund balances in professional services. They'll come down at the end of the year, and we'll carry some of them over because they last more than a year. Some of these training studies, these transportation studies, but we're in really good shape. And we're going to carry some items in the personnel line because of the vacancy at the deputy director's position for the first 2 quarters, almost 2 quarters of the year. That position was vacant. So we'll carry some surplus into the at the end of the year with regard to that. So we're in good shape right now. The other thing I just want to say is the county executive released his 2022 budget and his 2022 to 2027 capital program. The 2022 budget for the planning department actually adds a substantial amount of money to the department. We also have a position that got added to the department. We have a senior planning position that's going to be added to the department. If some of the members may recall, we used to have that position. It was actually eliminated and transferred to the economic development department about, I think, almost 5 years ago now, 6 years ago. We had asked for that position, given the number of the effort that we're dealing with in terms of housing. So that the executive has proposed that position in the budget. It would be a senior planner. It is a civil service position. We have a job description for that. We're looking at it to see whether it needs to be amended. The thought being is that general is better than specific, but depending upon what the legislature asks us when the legislature reviews our budget, we'll adapt accordingly with respect to that. But that planner is going to be tasked essentially with doing a lot of the housing work that is currently being split between myself and Evelyn Wright, who is an executive, the deputy county executive. And we're going to let a senior planner take a lot of the grunt work out of that and a lot of the outreach out of that. And we're currently engaging 2 sets of consultants to write something called a housing smart community action plan. It's a follow-up from the recommendations in the housing action plan. And we're negotiating quotes with a web designer. We're going to do this all on a website. It will not be a report. I repeat, will not be a report. It will be a web-based application. And then we're also engaging the housing consultant to write all the landing pages and all of the verbiage that goes into that, and all of the necessary forms that we need in order for applications to come through, et cetera, et cetera. We anticipate that we'll start that hopefully by middle of November, if not sooner, and then finish up later in the first quarter, or late in the first quarter, early second quarter of next year. And we're discussing whether we need to buy a domain name and those kinds of things associated with that. But we hope to have an active housing action plan, housing smart community. Community program up and running, certainly see how that goes. And then the other thing on a financial, we have a number of monies from the American Rescue Plan Fund that are going through the budget process right now. That would be essentially, I wouldn't say overseen by the planning department, but the planning department have a substantial responsibility for. There's about $2.1 million in funding that is going to be made available for a trails program. We will advise and work with those applications. Out of that, we currently have applications in front of us for about $1.7, $1.8 million. We had done outreach for that. And we also have, in that bucket, there is a $200,000 or $300,000 monies available for municipalities to upgrade their recreation facilities. That's an ongoing discussion. What we want to do is expand recreation facilities, not do maintenance on existing recreation facilities. But that's an ongoing discussion with the legislature in terms of how that money will be spent. And then there is a significant investment in housing that's coming down. And we anticipate that we'll get somewhere in the neighborhood of between $200,000 to $400,000 in funding for housing efforts. Those housing efforts would be essentially to support municipalities to do their own housing action plans and to do identification of areas within the community where housing can be built. We anticipate that these will be implemented through the county planning department, but they will not be sort of handed to the community and to go forth and do the study. We would probably issue the RFP, select consultants, and then work with the consultants with an advisory committee at the local level to actually do those reports, and a commitment at the local level that they'll actually adopt them when they're done. Absent that, my sense would be is that you won't get money. Just that simple. And this is monitored after merit after what we do with the Transportation Council right now with our money as it relates to the Transportation Council, with our local studies as it relates to that. And then there's about $1.5 million in real infrastructure, real housing infrastructure that is in a bucket that hopefully will be made available through the legislature. And if that's the case, then we will be looking at doing additional infrastructure work to support affordable housing at some level and in some places within the county, including our own project on Golden Hill. And then there's another, I think, $1 million and change that's involved as well. So there's a lot of money in here for housing, and we're going to be in the midst of that, in the midst of those conversations and decision making as it relates to that. The county has an ambitious program in front of it to spend about $17.4 million in this year, in the first 2 years, and then another $17.4 million come in. So we have about $34 million that the county is getting that we need to obligate, as I understand it, by 2024 and spend by 2027. It's not something that's hard to do, but you can spend money easily, but it's hard to do. It's hard to spend money effectively. And that's what the legislature and the executive team is now working on, is what those effective spending practices are. I will tell you that the executives committed a substantial amount of funds to homelessness and to opioid work, and another substantial amount of money to infrastructure, both at the county level in terms of what we need, and then also at the local level in terms to help local governments meet some of their infrastructure needs as well. So it's an exciting time, and it's a challenging time, and there's been a lot of discussions going on about this, and they will continue to go on right through the budget process, and hopefully we'll be able to start spending money early in the new year.
Okay. Dennis, you got anything on the environmental notices or grant opportunities?
No, the only thing on the environmental notices I want to add is that the Village of New Paltz as a lead agency for, I would call it Park Point 2, which is a housing project to provide student housing in a slightly different location than it was before, has now gone through scoping. It is I've looked at the scope. It's a fairly extensive scope. I was quite frankly somewhat surprised by the extent of the scope, given the fact that all we've done is move the project about 200 yards down the road. I was like, really, we have to do this all over again? There's some things you have to do because they're site specific, but you would think that economics and water, sewer, and traffic would be pretty much baked in the cake already with the other work that's been done, but apparently not. And then the only other thing out there I think is on grant opportunities. I'm trying to think. I think I'm good on grant opportunities. Anybody has any questions, let me know. We did apply, the county did apply for a TAP grant, it was a Transportation Alternatives Grant. I don't know whether any other communities have applied. I know the city of Kingston normally applies. We've talked to the city, they apparently haven't. Did any communities, are you aware that if your community applied or not? It's not a difficult grant to put in, but it essentially does, trail work, sidewalk work, any of those safety things that are out there.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
Drew, before we move on,
Sure.
this is Tom Wilkin. I would just like to go back to that capital project programs that we're supposed to review to remind, to kind of tell the new members that in the past, the board just kind of decided to focus more on the planning related parts of the capital programs instead of the whole package of the book, because it gets a little overwhelming. So I think it's a lot easier if we stick to that too. And but if for anyone new and trying to figure out what it is, just kind of stick with the things that are related to the planning board, the planning department, and it'd be a lot easier.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Dennis, did you have anything else for your director or staff reports?
Only the fact that we are also engaged with the county executive relative to the traffic safety board. The traffic safety board coordinator is a county employee currently now out of the safety office. The traffic safety board hasn't met, I would say, for all of 2020. The executive, in the most recent discussions with respect to some of the things that we're seeing as it relates to safety performance measures and accidents, the county executive did a call for the traffic safety board to meet. We've engaged both the existing coordinator and the chair of the traffic safety board and urged them to meet at the executive's call. We're going to try to set a meeting up, I would think, by the end of this month, if not early in November. The executive is also making a decision as to whether or not to appoint another coordinator for the traffic safety board. The planning department has made a recommendation that one of our staff that works in the transportation council, gentleman by the name of principal transportation planner by the name of Brian Slack, be considered for that position. And so hopefully we'll see something on that basis to move forward. So that's the thing that I think that you should be aware of, the fact that we are looking seriously at the traffic safety board. And if we can't engage the traffic safety board, I would suspect that the transportation council will create its own subcommittee on safety and work in that direction if we have to.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to talk about the capital program?
Yeah, I'm glad that Mr. Wilkin brought it up. We did provide that it was just released on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. It was released at a budget message. So we did provide that to the board and asked for the board to get back to us by, I think, the close of business on the 22nd. We would attempt to synthesize those comments and provide a set of draft recommendations relative to that for consideration at the November meeting. And hopefully, I've tried to check with the legislature about when they're going to consider their budget, the adoption of the budget. And depending upon that falls, we may have until December, at our December meeting, or we may be stuck in our making a decision at our November meeting. Staff will try to make sure that we can meet those deadlines and give the board enough time to take a look at those recommendations as synthesized from the comments of the board. I would just caution, one of the things that is of some concern from a staff's perspective, and I think is that, the capital program is large. And one of the reasons the capital program is as large as it is has to do with the American Recovery Act funds. The county is currently under discussion relative to that. The current feeling is that, and it's reflected in the capital program, is a lot of the American Recovery Act funds will be run through capital. There's an ongoing discussion with the controller's office relative to whether that's the appropriate way to do it. I will tell you that other counties have done it this way, and other counties are kind of saying to us, we wish we thought of that in terms of our way to do it. One of the reasons we want to run it through capital is a lot of these programs take more than 1 year to implement. And if they're in the operating fund, then you have to do some creative accounting in order to carry the funds over. So when you look at the capital program, you may see things in there and you may say, why is that in the capital program? The reason it's in the capital program as of now has to do with the fact that they're American recovery funds, and it was a financial, it was a government efficiency way in order for us to essentially to program some of these projects. There is I would say there's about between 20 and 25 million in the first 4 years of the capital program that reflect American Recovery Act funds. But even so, there is a substantial amount of money in the first 2 years of this capital program for the county to expend. You're looking at, I think, the second year of the capital program is well over $70 million. That's a big pig to swallow for this county to implement a $70 million expenditure of in a capital program. So that there are some challenges associated with that, and we should be aware of that. And I know that we've expressed this issue in the past, and I hope we can express it again. Which is that the capital program tails down from 70 million in the first 2 years to 50 million, and by the time we hit the fourth year of a 6-year capital program, we're running almost at nothing. We run down to 10 million, and by the last year of the program, we're running at 5 million or less. That suggests that we don't really have a good handle on our long range needs, and we're really just kind of doing this is what we're going to do this year and next year, and then by the way, we'll think about that, what we're doing beyond that. And that's just not a way to do capital programming. So that's where we are. Take a good hard look at it. We certainly as staff welcome your comments and guidance with respect to how that what we should comment on. And I would also basically say it's not just what is in the program, it's also what's missing from the program. So if you know your community has capital needs that are of a countywide nature, and they're not here, they're not reflected in the program, then you should say so, and let us make that work back to the executive and to the legislature. Any questions?
Dennis, it's Mike. Is there ever a report done of what was accomplished from previous capital plans? Like, I'm curious how much of 2021's plans were actually, attained as scheduled, and is obviously on multi-year projects it's reflected, but is there ever a report of that done?
The short answer is yes, on the fiscal side, because you can see the capital outlays. So it's yes on the fiscal side. It's less transparent back to the public on the project side. So you know how much money you spent, you don't really know what that accomplished.
Okay.
I will tell you that it is not as successful when you look at the capital outlays. It's not as successful as you would think with respect to what was in the program. We spend CHIPS money, we spend bridge money, those kinds of things. But the other, if there's $40 million in the capital program, you may have spent 10. Right. And so when I start to look at a capital program that has $70 million in it, I'm like, well, we can't even spend 40. How are we going to spend 70?
Right.
So we need a new model, and that's some of the discussions that we're having is that model may be, particularly with the American Recovery Funds, is to let others help us with that. And so you start to think of these things as revenue contracts with communities and let the communities implement some of the things that are capital needs that are generic to a community, but also have a countywide benefit. And I think that's the direction we're taking with the trails money. We're not going to try to manage those trails projects ourselves, at least I hope not. But we are thinking about utilizing some of the capacity within the nonprofits and some of the efforts at the community level to do that. It's, for me, I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but the short answer is that that's a great comment, Mike. You should make it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing, Dennis, it's Vince here. The only thing I would say or ask is, I'm sure the capital plan has been amended many times during the course of when it's in effect. So it'd be nice to know which items were put in the plan after it's been adopted or like amended. So we're not commenting on things that maybe were already put into effect. You see what I'm saying? So we're not duplicating something.
Yeah, you won't see that in the capital plan, Vince. The capital plan, as indicated, if you go through it, has those things that are recommended for funding, and they're listed. If you look at the plan itself, it lists existing projects and new projects. So anything that's in this plan is still ongoing, even if it has been moved from a program to a project. It's listed there, and if it's a project, it has a capital project number. So what you're reviewing is literally what the legislature is being asked to adopt. So there may be amendments from the legislature, but this is what the recommendations that's coming out from the county executive.
Right, yeah, right. And I understand that. It'd just be nice to know what those amendments are, like those amended projects. So we're not commenting on something that maybe already been amended. You know what I mean?
It's not. No, anything you comment on right now, maybe I wasn't clear and I apologize. Anything you're commenting on that's in that program has not been amended.
Okay.
And will not be until such time that it goes to the legislature, and your comments will go to the legislature prior to that. We did comment and have commented in the past that it would be beneficial to keep an amendment log of the capital program as it's amended during the course of its existence, and that comment has fallen on deaf ears. You have to go back through every resolution of the legislature to see where those amendments have occurred.
Maybe they should do that, not for the short term, but maybe for the long term from here on out. Maybe we should make the comment again.
I'll be happy to do that.
Because, I mean, and I agree with you. And you took the words right out of my mouth, because we don't see the things that are amended, and go round and round and round on those same things again. So yeah. I agree.
I'm finished, Drew. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
So, Robert, do we have anyone in the public that wants to address the board?
Well, now's your chance. You can raise your hand, and we can recognize you.
This is your one and only chance to address the board during our meeting.
There we go.
All right.
All right.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And maybe this is just more a question. I don't know if it's going to come up later in the meeting, but I'm the owner of 3094 Route 28 Shokan. I think you guys are going to review the site plan today, or the architectural drawings. I don't know if that's just another part of the meeting. I just wanted to, before I lost my chance to ask a question, I just wanted to throw it out there.
Is it Korg? Which town are you in?
Korg. Yeah, K-O-R-G.
Yeah, we are on the agenda.
Great. Okay, good. See, sorry, I didn't see the agenda. Thanks.
Do you have any comments you want to make with respect to that? That's the question.
No, I just, we look forward to moving ahead with the project. That's all. But if you guys have questions for me when it comes up, I'll answer anything you guys need.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. All right, Robert, you ready to move on to the zoning referrals?
Sure. And if we want, we can, if you all want, we can move Korg to the top of the list.
That'd be fine.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
What town, Rob? Olive?
Olive. So I'll ask if there's any recusals. I already know the answer to that. No.
Give me a second. I'll share my screen in one moment. All right, here we go. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so this is Shokan, New York. It's Spectre Korg. It's an expansion of an existing business, about 1,132 square feet for storage, shipping, receiving. Let me bring up the aerial real quick. Let's see. I have to switch which view I'm in. Guess which tab it is. So that's sorry. Rochester. There we are. Shokan. So this is the building right here. In the parcel. So in the back over here, they're going to be doing a small expansion. No county impact on that portion of it, but what we'd ask is long-term, you have sidewalks across the street, you have sidewalks on the north side of the street too, just to put an easement in place for eventual development of, or set aside for a sidewalk area when it gets developed down the road. But that's the only comment with respect to this.
Watkins, motion to support staff.
Second, Baden.
Okay. So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion from anyone? Okay, we're gonna go do the all opposed. Okay, nobody opposed and any abstentions? Okay, motion is approved.
I just can't help an editorial comment. If people don't know Spectre Corp, they are one of the premier guitar makers.
These guitar makers.
Yeah, it's an amazing company. And the fact that they're located here is just great. I got to tell you that.
Yes.
All right, I'll take it back to the top of the agenda.
Okay. This is a SOPAS,
Yeah.
any recusals?
Is Roxanne here?
Roxanne?
He's on mute.
I'm sure she's recused.
Yeah.
I am recusing.
Okay, thank you.
Having fun with mute tonight. Okay.
All right, let me go to Sophus here. So this is outside 500 feet. You can see the aerial, everybody?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes. The short
Yes,
answer
right.
is yes.
So it's just, you see the Showing Peak Ridge here. It's just west of that on Hardenberg Road as you're going back toward Old Post Road. So it's around where my pointer is. And let me bring up the aerial. So bring up my, I'm rusty with this. We haven't done Zoom in a while. So this is the parcel here with that mess there. So it's outside 500 feet, so advisory comments only. Okay, let me go back to my PowerPoint. There you go. So 8-lot subdivision, proposed to be a dedicated, originally was proposed to be a private road. Now they've actually did an offer session. So it's proposed to be a dedicated road with a 50-foot right of way. There's 1,750 feet of length, so they have to ask for a waiver because it's a lot above 1,200 feet. Fire department and the highway department have both reviewed it favorably. Let's see. So this is existing conditions here.
It's a tough site though, right, Rob? It's got a pretty,
Yeah, it's got some, I mean, it's by the Showing Peak Ridge, so it's got some topo in here, and there's some wetlands in there, so there is going to be one wetland crossing, and they're already in process with the permit to the Army Corps of Engineers as it is. So you can see that they're avoiding the wetlands for the most part. And that's just a zoom in here. So they'll need final approval from septic, from county health department for wastewater. I'm just working through it. There is, that's our, so as you probably couldn't see it, because it was, I probably didn't zoom it up, but there is a road grade at 1 point of 12%. So we'll have to look at that, maybe regrade the road a bit in there. Final health department approvals, whether regardless it's a private road or a public road, bus stops will probably take place at the end of the road. So they should look into a bus stop location or increasing the shoulder length so that there are room for cars during the winter for students to get on the bus. As I mentioned, the final wetlands permit. And then we have, okay, they're in the state buffer is what it is. Not in the state wetland itself, they're in the buffer area. Just general comments about providing a stormwater maintenance agreement, or is it deed restricted? Want to have that resolved. Usually what we've been seeing lately, like we saw in the town hall, is that each parcel where there's stormwater facilities on it usually gets deeded to it, but that should be made clear.
Yeah, not restrictions. It's just deeded responsibility.
Deed responsibilities, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just make sure that they did their endangered species work with respect to northern long-eared bat and cut during the appropriate seasons and times.
We got a resiliency comment on here or not?
Oh, we should put a resiliency comment, just an advisory comment to look at alternative fuel sources, alternative energy sources, building materials, New York State energy stretch goals. And these are all advisory again, Mr. It's outside 500 feet.
Robert, this is an open development then, right?
No, this is not an open development.
No?
No, well,
Oh,
I mean,
because it'll be a town road, right?
they have an offer of session, so it's
yeah.
So
It's on a-
it's a private, yeah. So it's, and it's by it. If it's not, it's a private road, so it's not.
Yeah, no, you're right, Robert. Not,
Yeah, thank you.
Motion to approve advisory comments, Mike Baden.
Second,
who was the second?
Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn. I didn't recognize the voice. I apologize.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, motion's approved. Okay. Robert, you ready to move on to Marbletown?
Whenever you are.
Okay, any recusals?
Mr. Hansen's absent.
Okay,
So this is a 4-lot subdivision. Typically, again, Marbletown's one of the few whole towns that hasn't signed the exception agreement, so we're seeing this still. 4-lot subdivision off the county route, Purple Bush Road, near Pine Bush Road. I'll bring up the aerial real quick. There we are. This parcel here, as you can see, it is in an Ulster County Ag District, number 3. So it does, I don't know if you can see it, but it does flag around to Pine Bush Road. So most of the development will be over in here, but then the flag comes here. So you'll see the 4th lot will be there, and then the other lots will be here, and then they'll avoid the wetlands over in there.
okay.
So there's that. Okay, hard one. So this is what I have. I don't have materials that indicate buildable lots. So they need to show location of proposed houses, wells, and septic, and receive their final approval from the health department with respect to it. And again, the sustainability comment about alternative energy sources, lowering their carbon footprint. And those are all required mods that I'm recommending.
Rob, a question on that, Mike Baden.
Sure.
Did I notice, is there a stream that goes through that, or is that a?
Yes.
Let me go back to, let me go back to the arrow if you want. Yeah, there's a little stream that goes through.
Is that a name stream? Do they have flood elevation concerns or
I don't believe it's. All the development is outside the 100-year floodplain and
Okay.
outside wetlands.
okay. It's just concerning since they didn't show you building locations. I personally would like to ask for a re-referral back showing the building locations because to me that's important, but
We can do that.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Add it on.
House, well, and septic location.
Right.
Yep,
Exactly.
I got
That's
you.
well and septic.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Motion McCarthy.
McLaughlin seconds it.
Bill, second.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, all those opposed? No one? Any abstentions? Okay, motion approved. Okay, Robert, how about Marlboro? Looks like the Henry's Farm.
Cindy
Henry's Farm to
Lampier,
table.
recusing.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Cindy.
You're going to do both of these at once?
I will.
Okay.
Okay, so we have an existing resort, spa, restaurant site in Milton. Most of it's in there. So what we're looking at are expansion of an existing restaurant by a small amount and an expansion of parking area. Parking area is over in here on the site. The restaurant's over in here. We're talking about a little bit of an expansion in there. Deck, basically it's a deck and a kitchen expansion. And then you have parking, and all the parking on site is valet. So let me go to my PowerPoint. Okay. I've got some annotations on my PowerPoint. All right. So 70 seats, so 150 seat restaurant. Like I said, office, storage, cooler building, 360 square feet, some recycling, and 32 parking spaces. No topographic changes are proposed. There's nothing visible that you can see from the river at this location. Like I said, you have your restaurant expansion here, parking's over here. There we go. So there's really no county impact on these small internal modifications to an existing site.
Vince Bullshit.
Second, McCarthy.
So I noticed in their EAF, they said they would have no impact on traffic, but they're doubling the size of the restaurant. So it seemed like they might.
I don't know what the trip generation of that is, but it's not a high traffic road in there.
I get the fact that the capacities increase, but typically what this does is it's a choice between the patrons. And that's given the pandemic, they're basically offering an outdoor seating. So they
right.
Even though they have more seats, they don't necessarily double a capacity. It's just a choice that people are making with respect to being inside or outside. Does that help, Amanda?
No, because that's this year. I mean, it's always going to be bigger.
I mean, they might have events on site, but they have additional parking. It would happen at peak hours.
Okay, I'm just
asking. Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Actually, it's Mike. Just a question on that, Dennis. When we're talking about an expansion, we're talking about a change to another level of traffic, right? Not just that it's going from 50 to 100 or something like that. I mean, those are just examples.
I don't think Amanda's questioning whether or not there's a significant impact here. I think she's questioning the answer. I want to speak for her. I think she's questioning the answer, which says there's no increase in traffic.
Yes, perhaps they should have said minimal impact.
Yeah.
Or marginal.
Well, yes, small to moderate. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? So we have a motion and a second. All those opposed? Okay. And any abstentions?
Me.
Okay. Cindy's abstaining? Okay.
Yeah, no, Cindy's recused. I got her.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right, motion passes. And then we've got another Marlboro one for, you also recused on this, Cindy?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Go to Ariel on this. This is 39 Main Street. So right as you enter the hamlet of Milton, you have this vacant site here. You have the post office here. You have businesses here. What you're proposing is basically mixed use infill development right in the town's hamlet. So right off.
And
really,
this is a challenging site. There's quite a bit of elevation difference between the front of the site and the back of the site. And so the applicant has essentially given himself a sense that he's building street level at the front of the site and a story up and out on the back of the site. It's quite an interesting site plan. We met with him to go over what he was proposing and how he was proposing it.
so what they're doing, lot line adjustment, moving the existing structure. There's going to be 8 retail buildings, with each building on the second story going to be 4 one-bedroom apartments. It's for a total of 32 apartments. So that's a basic overview of what it is. Parking in the rear, buildings facing the street. You'll see those staircases in the middle. That shows you the amount of topo that we're talking about for that back parking lot area. That's existing conditions. So I'm going to combine those 2 lots. And this is more of a zoom in for you.
That's not where the Raccoon Saloon is it?
No, we're in Milton.
Sorry.
Where does the water run off here?
They're going to capture it under the parking lots.
And there's an area right here, this square in here.
Okay.
So, and there's more. You can see it now more clear here. That's stormwater chamber there that's mentioned. You see those outlet, and you can also see there's where it drains. Now you can pretty much clearly see where it drains to, right back into toward Main Street there.
Sorry, Bob, this is Mitchell Cohen. I have a question for you.
Sure.
What size lot is that?
Let's see. Acreage on it is less than an acre, 0.92.
Now, is that 0.92 after they joined?
Yes, that's the project acreage.
Okay.
So does that retaining wall go all the way across the back or just that little U-shaped thing?
Looks like it goes almost all the way around the back there.
Okay.
Looks
I don't see any bicycle racks or electric vehicle charging stations.
right. So I'll go to our comments. So bicycle racks, that's a good comment. I didn't make that comment. EVTs is going to be a required modification as we're recommending for all multifamily dwellings. New multifamily dwellings. Let me get out of annotation moment here. For my comments, lighting levels are okay. So again, the EV charging station comments and sustainability. Mostly what I want to do is offer compliments on infill project right in the hamlet, building in an existing center with access to municipal water and sewer. So
and Rob, I think we have one other comment, and my apologies. I thought of this, and
we also had an affordable comment if you want to hit that too while you're out. But
yeah, the one comment I wanted to make is the difficulty in terms of working with this site, and I think the community has to have some concern, and what we would suggest, and this would be advisory, is they have a construction plan and a construction monitoring plan. I got a feeling that there's going to be some blasting in here, and you've got a lot of buildings in and around this site that are old, and you really need to have some care with respect to how this is constructed. And so I think we're going to make we should make an advisory comment with respect to the construction and construction monitoring, particularly with how this thing is, closing streets off, and there's going to be a lot of disruption with respect to this construction in the hamlet, and they need to take that into consideration. And that's what we'll issue that as, with the board's permission, we'd add that as an advisory comment, that they have some care with respect to construction, and ask the developer to lay out a construction plan, as it goes through the approval process. This is going to be a difficult, and we'll add that question with respect to bike racks too.
Right. And the affordable comment is the town of Marlborough does not have affordable housing regulations, but what we can say is that we have county housing action plan. We have the paper that addresses the town of Marlborough, and that we asked them and the developer to see if they can look at meeting a 10% set aside at the 80% or 60% level of AMI.
I'll make the motion to support staff with those additions that Dennis mentioned.
I'll second it, Mike Baden.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion?
The only thing I want to say, Drew, is that, we want to compliment both the town and the developer. This is a really good infill project, and it's not going to be cheap to do. And it really extends that main street up to the corner, and there's been some thoughtful design process involved here. And I think that the developer and the community deserve some recognition of that.
Yes, very good. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, any abstentions? The motion passes. Okay. All right, Robert, looks like we got the Village New Paltz next. Are there any recusals?
All right. Village of New Paltz still requires site plan review for all single-family homes. This is an expansion of an existing single-family home for a proposed enclosed porch and deck. There's no county impact on it.
So moved, Mike Baden.
Second, McCarthy.
Okay, all those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Okay.
Jump to Plattekill.
We already dealt with Olive, so the next one would be Plattekill. Any recusals?
There's two numbers. We'll handle them at once.
Geo is recused.
Thank you, Geo.
All right. This is a special permit and site plan for construction of a 40 by 70 storage building and gravel parking areas. What they're intending to do is store empty steel shipping containers. They already have a waiver for an open development area. Let me show you the aerial here. Here we are. So, bit hard to see, but this is a really big parcel and they're only using a portion of it. So, okay, let me see if I can do this here. This is the right of way where they're gaining access. And then they have access to this portion of the site. And as you zoom out, let me zoom out a bit. The parcel actually goes back to here, but the what's going on in the site actually occurs only on this parcel here. And they are crossing that wetland as part of this project. So I'll need a permit from Army Corps of Engineers to do it. Okay. Let me show you the drawings. That's the survey. Like I said, it has that interesting shape. Throughways on the western side of it.
They do a delineation. Is there a delineation of those wetlands or not?
Yeah. Well, there.
Yes.
Later on, yes, there are. Yes. Yeah, I would have gone there, Joe. Didn't have to do that.
Yes, and it's already been pushed to DC.
Yes, I know.
Also, the DOT permit has also been submitted.
Anyway, so access is there. As you can see, there's access here by easement. This is the building here. This is one of the parking areas. And then on the second slide, after the wetland, where they cross the wetland, you have another area. Comments. Final NISDOT approval. Showing of the easements on the site. We don't, as you can see from this gravel area and the gravel area before it, we don't have what the layout of these storage containers will be. We don't know if they're going to stack them, how high they're going to stack them. If they're going to stack them, I don't know.
We don't know how to get around in there.
Yeah.
If there's fire back in there,
arranged?
or something happens, or somebody gets hurt. There's
Right.
It's just someplace down here we're putting storage containers.
So we'd like to see a layout and some sort of height restriction placed on them in case they are going to stack them. And then stormwater, there's more than, should be a phased stormwater plan. As I see if on my first slide, I think it was, they're calling for, there's 3 acres of disturbance with respect to the project. So providing us a SWIP and showing the stormwater would be advised as well.
What are they using them for, if you don't mind me asking? What is
Don't
the
know, they're
purpose?
empty storage containers.
Okay, so there's nothing in them at all.
Well,
In
that's
In theory.
We don't know that.
that's what they're saying, but I don't know.
Right.
Hey, Robert, how are they actually crossing the wetland? Are they building a bridge there?
It is a proposed wetlands disturbance area. I don't know that that's a bridge.
It may be a fill with
I think it looks like fill to me.
Okay.
And are they saying like how many times they're gonna be traversing? Like, is it once a month, 3 times a day? I mean, what?
I don't have any knowledge of how frequently this site will be used once they put them into storage. Yeah, I mean, it could be rarely used, it could be frequently used. I do not know.
Yeah, I mean, the access to 4455, so it's not a capacity issue on the road.
The owner does do pods right now, so he's going with a little bit bigger units than what he has right now. But I think he was going to go up to possibly a 40-footer. I saw it over a year ago, and I can't really remember everything about it. But at that time, he's looking for a place to park them. He also had another location about a mile up the road. He has a porta potty business, and he's also into pods as well. So,
are they he's gonna rent them out and then fill them up and bring them back?
Well, or maybe he might be short-term storage stuff there, and then move them out to someplace else, maybe, or deliver them to another location or something. But
okay,
I don't think he's going to have them. But it's basically he doesn't want any of the public in there. He doesn't want any signage up on the road. He just wants just a little drive going in, so no one really knows he's back there.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm a little bit more concerned if he's going to put something in him and stick him back there, because
the long-term storage would be the issue there. But I think it's mainly just a place to store them, so he has them to rent out at places.
Yeah, but I thought he said that they may also be filled ones staying there until the people are ready to take, like.
That could be too. And everything has changed this past year, so who knows what's.
So we should add that comment that the community needs to know whether or not these are going to be empty or there's going to be something in them.
Well, it says on the plan that they will be empty, that they're supposed to be empty. That's how it's described.
There you go.
Yeah, but there's a place where he said some of them might be held for some period of time full.
Read the plat.
Yeah.
So why don't we just add that comment, Rob, that basically says that the layout and maximum height and a confirmation that these are going to be empty. That's all. Because if they're not going to be empty,
it does indicate it on the plat, as Joe said, that they're supposed to be empty. So
This is Mitchell Cohen. Quick question. When you say maximum height, are you talking about the building or the storage of the empty containers?
If they're stacked, I don't know if they're stacking them or not. I'm assuming they're probably not, but in case they do, they might want to put a maximum how high they can stack them, just for safety and for visual impacts.
Right.
Right.
If you ever saw them stacked on a ship, they stack them pretty high.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So that's a good comment.
I'm not telling them how high to stack. It should conform to the zoning codes.
Right, exactly.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Watkins, motion to support staff.
Second it, McLaughlin.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those opposed? And any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Okay, Robert, looks like we've got Rochester next. Any recusals?
Mike Bain's recused.
Okay.
All right, this is a zoning petition to rezone 2 parcels from R2 to AR3 for agricultural use. Eventually, what they want to do is apply to the ag district. Let me show you where it is. It's off Burn Road. So, but it's out of the floodplain and there are no wetlands on site. Let me go to, there you go. Let's see. There we go. So there are 2 parcels. Well, historical note, there was an airstrip on this site many years ago. That green space, you can see that's where it was. So there's the Burn Road. To the north of it, you can see there's Kilder Farm. There's a lot in the ag district. Adjacent to it, and I'll bring up the zoning just so you can see it. It's R2. It's surrounded by R2, except for across where it's AR3. And that's what they want to do, is extend into that AR3. And
Rob, I'm not coming, but you have one of the wrong parcels highlighted. Just, you have the rail trail parcel highlighted and it should be the Burn Road parcel.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to actually highlight them. But anyway, so anyway, to have the 2, I just got confused. Let me bring up the soil types, which is what I was going to do. So as you can see, the site has both prime soils and farmland of statewide importance. So it's good soils for what they want to do, which is, and they're also proposing no event facilities on the site. And so staff comments are actually, that's the site. Staff recommends no county impact on that change.
Motion to support comments, Gio.
Second, McCarthy.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, motion passes.
Rob, if it's, I apologize for this, but we have our public hearing on it tomorrow night. If it's possible, it would be appreciated. If it's not, understood.
All we have to do is send the cover sheet. I think we can handle it.
Thank you.
Okay, Rob, looks like we're down to Town of Saugerties.
Yes.
Any recusals?
Yes, Lavity.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, so this is an existing Holmes Memorial business. It's on Route 9W. It's a small 1,680 square foot expansion to the rear of an existing business. So here's the site. Addition is going to go back here. Already have an approved rear yard variance for that, which did not come to the county though, which probably should have come to us for review. Not that it would have had county impact, but it probably should have come to us. Let's see. Go to PowerPoint. So there's no new lighting, no utility connections, no parking, no new signage, or new landscaping proposed. So it's a small 1,680 square foot storage building for an existing business. No changes to the access. Looks like a prefab garage. And that's the existing business. No county impact on that.
Motion to support staff, McLaughlin.
Second, Vivian Welton.
Okay, any further discussion? All those opposed? And any abstentions? All right, motion passes. All right, another one for Town of Saugerties. I assume, Bob, you're still recused?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Resto Apartments.
All right. So this development's off of Glasgow Turnpike and off of Route 9W. It's a proposed 162 unit multifamily dwelling complex, including clubhouse and pool. You're going to do it in 16 buildings, 2-story buildings with 10 units each. There's 2 existing residences on the property, so that's part of that 162 count. And what they're doing is building to the base density. Town of Saugerties has affordable housing provisions, but they not require set aside. What they do is they grant density bonuses. And what this does, the reason I calculated it is because they're just building to the base density without going for more units, which they could have. The zoning in the area allows for 42 feet in height, and they're building it only 2-story buildings. So there was room for more potential at the site if they had chosen the density bonus path.
Yeah, the other thing, Rob, is interestingly, and I think correctly, the town calculates density based on number of bedrooms, not on number of units.
Yes, they do that. I could calculate. Yeah, I have 239 bedrooms, which equals the base density.
Yeah,
for the site. Okay. So this is the existing site. Let me bring in the aerial just so you can see where it is. Okay, so that's the site in there. So access would be from this existing driveway here back into here. This is an ag parcel, but it's being changed to multifamily use. This is existing Birches senior housing in there. And then you have more housing to the north of here as well. 32s to the east and Glasgow Turnpike to the south. So it's pretty well surrounded by major roads. Access is only to new 9W. You can see there's emergency access proposed for right here. We'd ask that they, especially since you have a paper street network that goes on back there, that they consider granting that a full-time access for that many units. They should have 2 points of access for 162 units, not just limit it to a single point of entry, especially for fire safety. Okay, let me go to the site plan. Okay, and there we go. So it's a very conventional layout. And what we would say to the applicant, okay, let me just take you through it, is pool house, clubhouse is over there at the front. And then you have roads throughout. There's not a single sidewalk throughout it. What we'd like them to do is consider complete streets throughout development and maybe take a stronger look. There's, as you can see, the buildings don't really, they relate to the road, they're set back from the road, and there's green space between the buildings, but the buildings don't really relate to each other. There's opportunities here, and these are all advisory comments about ways they could have been a little bit more creative in creating a community through complete streets, street trees, sidewalks, and just reorienting those structures and providing some on-site recreation other than a pool at the front. They could have also looked at alternatives that move that clubhouse and pool into the center property and made it a focal point. They should just think about a little bit more what kind of community they want to make here.
I would say that, Rob,
sure.
It's an interesting design. These are 16 buildings, all of the same. Can you pull up the building elevations, Rob?
Sure. There you go.
So that's what it looks like, and that's unusual for a apartment complex that you have garages.
Right. So I mean, there was a question from Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees whether this actually, even though it's called Glasgow Apartments, isn't indeed apartments. So we're just a little curious if this is actually a condo complex as opposed to apartment.
I spoke to the developer, and he indicated that this is what they're offering these more and more upstate, and that this is in point of fact an apartment complex.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. Can you go back to the site plan, Rob?
I can.
Dennis, this design there is kind of similar to what you see over at the, not quite exactly, but similar to over the Commons condos there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar, but not quite.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. But one of the things that we're looking at is you've got I don't know whether this works, but you've got all of this area in here, and then you got this area in here, right? And then you have some of these other areas. And the thought being is that we could actually start to think about running a pathway through here and using these areas as not just as lawns, but also as a community area back through there. So that was the other comment that we wanted to make.
Right.
And then the other thing that on a complete street basis, I know that they meet the code relative to the fact that they have parking in their driveway, but there's literally no guest spaces provided at all within the complex. So I guess you're going to park in your neighbor's driveway, I presume, if you have a guest meeting, and generally you usually see at least a couple of spaces for guests. They do have some parking up here, although not much, associated with their
Clubhouse.
Their clubhouse or their community building. But the thought being is that we want to make a comment that there may want to be some consideration to provide some guest parking within the complex, and they certainly have the room to do that.
Like an advisory comment?
Yeah, I think so, but I think it's a little bit more than advisory, but it's certainly an advisory comment. But the other thing is that just be aware of the fact that I know it looks funny, but access, Rob, can you go up one? Is this one more? I think I'm looking at the driveways. Yeah, so when you look at how they get the 10 units, there's 8 units across the front, and then there's side entrances for the units on the side. So it's a very efficient design, but it's also very repetitive with 16 buildings all the same.
It looks like military base housing.
It's I'm not arguing that with you, but I'll just leave it the fact it's a very repetitive design, and there's some things that they could do to, either additional landscaping or changing a few things around that would help the project. But it is a very repetitive design. And then the thought here is that this is a gate, this is gated, and we'd actually ask them to not gate this, not to make this emergency, but actually make it a
full-time access.
A full access. And we generally wouldn't make that recommendation if there was quite a bit of residential between them and the highway. But there's I think 8 houses when we counted them to get back out to Route 9W. And there's a large subdivision on the other side of this as well. So there's really not a good reason not to gate that. I mean, and you can think of things relative to the adjoining houses here in terms of fencing that would make that work as well. But we certainly definitely want to maintain the Route 9W as the primary access. We think that does work.
Right. Let me move to our comments before we get a little bit lost.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So just to go through what our comments are at this point. So access, final NISDOT, access to Glasgow, as we just mentioned, a complete street design with sidewalks, landscaping, bike racks, place for school access transit, because they're not going to enter this complex. There has to be some sort of place for them to go. Again, with our multifamily structures, we're asking for EV charging stations. There should be some on site, and also just explanation or how they're going to meet certain energy goals for energy efficiency.
I mean, they could put the EV charging stations in the units
clubhouse
themselves,
or like units themselves too.
Yeah.
You have complete streets as a recommendation and an advisor.
Yeah.
I'll leave that as
the
design layout. Complete streets is a required mod. The design layout discussion we had, because that includes things like looking at things like alleyways. Is it possible of building the buildings to the street and putting the garages behind it as alternatives to make it more of a community? Let's see. So signage details, I don't have those. They should provide for recreation or public gap space on site. landscaping refers to the street trees I was just talking about, really. And an advisory comment about the affordable housing. You have a situation where there's no requirement for affordable housing. There's a density bonus. There's as an attractive option available to developers. They didn't take it. We should note that again, the community housing, the county housing action plan, and note that and the density bonuses are not an effective tool, or at least not in this case, they're an effective tool to generate the interest on the part of the applicant to meet the town's needs with respect to affordable housing. So clearly, and also when you tie it back to the town's recently adopted comprehensive plan, which has a focus on providing for affordable housing, they should really be rethinking what they're doing with affordable housing, because they had an opportunity here. If they had had requirements here, they would have had 16 units here if they had a 10% set aside.
Dennis, quick question. With your discussion that you had with the developers, did they seem to indicate that they would go along with the affordable housing provision?
I wouldn't characterize my discussions with them as we discussed what they proposed. We didn't discuss all the recommendations. So they're aware of the fact that we have a concern with respect to affordable housing. I'm not sure that they're willing to do anything relative to it because they don't have to.
I just didn't know whether it came up, that's all.
Yeah.
Dennis, your comment about the visitor parking, I think based on that design, we should make that a required modification, because I think it's going to happen. People are going to come visit other people, and there really is nowhere for them to park. So I think that should be required mod.
Absolutely.
Pedestrian access.
It's an apartment complex, and every apartment complex I've ever been to has visitor parking. Exactly.
Yeah. And as far as you're talking about pathways, and I may have missed it. Is there other pedestrian access throughout the complex, or are people going to have to walk in the roads?
No, that's when we say complete streets, what we mean is essentially sidewalks as well.
Okay.
Mike.
And then you're talking about opening up the other entrance. The only concern with that, and I'm not familiar enough, will that become a shortcut for people to avoid stop signs or
not
traffic lights?
Not that we're aware of, Mike.
Okay.
It may split southbound traffic on Route 9W to northbound traffic, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Mainly
I can bring up the
because-
arrow and show you real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my only concern, Dennis, with opening that up, is if people are going to create it into a public shortcut, then it's going to bring a lot more traffic through that.
I don't see that at all.
Yeah, but I have that same concern, Mike. I'm with you on that.
Well, what's the shortcut here?
They
There
want
isn't
to
any.
they want to gate the community, and we're suggesting that they don't gate it and they let people just drive through there like it's a city street.
No, not at all. I mean, there's no cut through traffic that's gonna occur that I could see here. There's no reason to cut through here.
It would be quicker just to go out to Glasgow. If they're making a right and going north, it would be easier for them to keep going straight, head out to Glasgow. It's only a little jog ahead and make that right.
It's not a connection to a it's more of a connection for the project. It's not a connection for other people to cut through.
Yeah, no, I see that. I see your point. I wasn't familiar enough. The only reason I brought it up is if it was a possibility, that would be a concern. But if it's not, then I understand the comment. So,
are they going to have dumpsters in here, or do they expect there to be sanitation trucks coming into every?
Well, if there's a garage, one would presume that each individual apartment has its own waste inside. I mean, I know we start to think of these things as apartment buildings, but this is literally designed as a townhouse. So there's no dumpsters in a townhouse development. This is literally if you think about it, if you look at this, it literally is designed as a townhouse.
This is Mitchell Cohen. What about some kind of a snow removal plan? If parking is really difficult, then where are they going to put all the snow when it falls?
There actually are, Mitch, there are snow storage areas marked on the plans behind.
Yeah, they did mark
actually
them.
those. That's the thing is we're talking about reorienting it, and those are actually currently their snow storage areas, so they'd have to find other places on site to accommodate it.
But they
they
did think
do
of
have
it.
snow storage areas.
Yeah, they did think of it. And the sidewalk thing is a little bit difficult because of the design, and I sort of understand that because you've got all these driveways.
That's why I like the idea of doing alleys. This way you move the buildings to the street, put the alleys behind it, put it up to a sidewalk, and then go down the alley path.
Robert, I want to know if your comments deal with the pool, because it doesn't make sense with no sidewalks and whatever. Anybody from the furthest buildings away, if they want to go to the pool, they got a long walk.
They're all going to drive to. Here's the thing: they're all going to drive to the pool,
but there's no parking there.
There's no parking.
Yeah, is there parking for the pool area?
There is. There is a small parking area there.
They're going to drive to the pool,
but not enough to deal with 160 units.
Right. Wow. That's why I suggest making it a focal point of development as an advisory comment. Yeah.
But is that part of what you're doing in the advisory? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Okay.
But I mean, the other thing we do want to say is it does meet a housing need. So we just be aware of the fact that we do want to say that it does meet a housing need. And the community has, on this site, given the size of the site, the community density, the density or the community, this is at the right density. My sense is this is the right density for this site. It's not something that is jammed on the site that you're looking at and said this is really going to be a difficult situation to deal with. It is the right density for the site itself, and there are some opportunities here to improve the design. So we do want to say those things as well.
Right, but Rob said something about pushing the houses up to the street, and that means the garage door would be open and you're pulling right into the backing right into the.
That would be behind an alleyway.
You'd end up with an alleyway down through here, and you'd move your garages to the back, and then you can move the houses up.
Okay.
It's a standard design tool that they use. It may or may not work depending upon the interior layouts.
There's a good example of that down in Warwick. It's called Warwick Grove.
Yeah, I know the project.
Yeah.
But this space deserves to be treated. This space in here deserves to be treated as something. That's the key, in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And there's and the same thing here. This space over here deserves to be treated as something besides just a big lawn behind the apartment buildings.
You mean like picnic tables or bocce court or something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, treat it as a common area, and not that everybody fears to tread out there. You treat it as a common area, and you design it because you can put a path through it. You can put some, you can put some playground materials in there, so you just don't have to go to the pool all the time. There's some things that you can think about.
Where is the playground?
There is. It's up in this community building up here, Glenn. Everything's up in here.
There's no playground.
Yeah.
Right.
Motion to support, staff.
Second, Mike Baden.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, all those opposed? And are there any abstentions? Okay, motion approved. All right. Next, Rob, is the Verizon Tower, Town of Saugerties. Bobby, you still accused on this one?
Probably.
He's got to be.
Yeah, okay. Maybe he got muted.
All right. Verizon Tarpon Towers. This is. So I'll zoom out a bit. There's the New York State Thruway, Kings Highway, industrial area, and aptly it's off of Industrial Lane. That's me back in there. 155-foot tower. Let's go to my PowerPoint. So town has they have gone through every test that we typically recommend for this. So things they've done is they've done alternate sites. They've looked at alternate sites and compared different heights at different locations. They've looked at existing structures. They've done RF analysis. They've done capacity. The reason they're doing that, and I'll bring it to, is so this is the site location, by the way. 155 height. So you have capacity issues in the area. That would be proposed at the 700. And there's at the 2100 megahertz level. And that fills that gap as well, that coverage gap. So again, this is a second site they looked at. And when they did their looks, they also, they looked at different heights of the 136 feet, 146 feet. And you can see there's noticeable differences, improvements in coverage of gaps by going to that 146 foot level. And at their preferred site, which is in an industrial area. Also did a visual analysis. You couldn't see it from the significant sites that they mentioned, like Ulster Landing Park and other some other historic sites that they picked out. So, and the visual impacts are very limited. So staff recommends no county impact on it.
I'm happy to vote or make a motion to support staff.
I'll second it, Mike Baden.
Okay, any further discussion?
Rob, can we add in just a compliment for the analysis, both for both for the planning board and the applicant? It's very thorough.
Yes.
Okay. All those opposed? And any abstentions?
Sure, it's Bob. For avoidance of doubt, I was in fact recused. I lost my window there for a minute.
It's all right.
We got you, Bob.
We noted it. Thanks, Bob. Okay,
Yeah.
motion passes. Okay, Robert, on to Village of Saugerties. Any recusals?
So this is a proposal for 18,400 square feet of self-storage space. It's up on North Street in an industrial area, right next to the train tracks. This is a view that's from the west. Actually, it's a view from the east to the site. There's the vacant lot in the back. Existing driveway is being accessed across. There is a utility easement in place here already.
What's behind this, Rob?
Well, you have the CSX is behind it.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, so it's an infill site. I'll go to the aerial just to give you a better sense where it is. So existing driveway, they'll need an easement, and it's this site in the back over here next to the railroad tracks. So good use next to the railroad tracks. Comments on it though, didn't get many details on it.
Can you pull the soils up on that, Rob? Just hit the soils map on that.
Sure. Come on. ML. Soils.
That's other nice note is made land. I think this is covering an old
some NBF on it too.
Yeah, I think this is covering the old landfill.
Mm.
So we may want to make a comment on digging around in here.
All right. That's in PowerPoint. So greater than acre disturbance. I don't have any of the stormwater work with respect to that. They'll need to provide that. I don't have a lighting plan with respect to it. They need to provide that. Not that you're going to see it from anywhere, but they should definitely be full shielded, no sky glow, and any signage for the property. And we'll also make the, how do you want to phrase this comment?
I think the comment is basically that they should be aware what's underneath them. They should have at least some sense of what's, yeah.
Soil testing, the comment?
Yeah, soil. It's more of will it settle? Will it not settle? What are you going to dig for frost walls? Those kinds of things. They better make sure that they understand what's underneath that.
You saying were you saying it's a permitted landfill that you?
No,
thought
no,
of?
it was an old, the Village of Saugerties landfill was back in here. I just don't know where the extent was. But I mean, you can clearly it's all been filled. I just don't know whether they just filled around the site or whether or not there was actually landfill underneath it. I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, Dennis. So
No, I have orthos and that go back. Amanda provided us with what's that brand of
The beers,
maps?
the beers maps. Yeah.
Yeah, so I might be able to find something on there using the.
But I think we
maps.
just make a comment that they
Historical
need
mapping.
to understand they're on made land and they should know what's
Right.
underneath them.
Rob, is there any barrier of any kind to stop people from accessing the tracks, the CSS tracks?
Looks like it's. Let me.
They usually fence these off. I presume they are, right?
Let me see if there's a fencing.
Yeah, there's a fence in there, isn't there?
Yeah, it looks like there's a fencing detail. Let me see if I can see it. Yeah.
I know on the one side there is. I just don't know how far it goes down.
I'm not seeing a comment about a fence in here. I'm not seeing a note about a fence. So I'll just say we'll make sure it's fenced. We can make that a required modification. They usually are, but I'll make it.
It's just it's temptation with younger kids or something. I mean, it's just if you're bringing the public that close to the tracks, I think it should be some sort of barrier.
Fair point.
Yep.
I hardly ever see anybody go down there anymore, but okay.
So you got a required modifications now, Rob, right?
Yeah, it already had required modifications.
Okay, thank you. So we'll add fencing to those list of comments.
Yep, fencing and the soil count.
Wouldn't fencing being already be done with the these type of facilities anyway?
Well, we don't see it on a plan, Vince. That's why.
I think Drew may have stepped away.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay.
All right. Nobody made a motion yet, right?
That's right.
I'll move it.
Okay.
McCarthy second.
All right. Very good. Any further discussion? All those opposed? And any abstentions? All right, motion passes.
Hey, Rob, we have a public hearing on this next Wednesday night. If there's,
Oh, that's not. It'll be back well before then.
all right, I appreciate it.
Okay, Robert Ulster. Any recusals?
Mr. Almquist isn't here tonight.
Yep. All right.
Okay, Malichi and Bear subdivision. Now, this is a proposed 7-lot subdivision, including 5 residences. Lot 1 and 2 have existing residents and existing cottage on them, so it's basically 5 new single-family homes. Now, let's see. To get an understanding where this is, it's next to. My screen is blocking it. So it's above Hurley Mountain Road. So this whole property, let's see, I think I do. So it overlooks Hurley Road and it overlooks the Gill Farm area, the former Gill Farm area. So our big concern here is about building envelopes and screening and visual impacts with respect to it. I'll go back to design though. So easement access, it's all a driveway access. So I'll need fire district to look at it. If it's not open development area, it probably would require an open development area as part of it. Let's see. Actually, did they get it already? No, they don't have an open development.
So that's not a private road back through there, Rob?
Yeah, it's actually considering it a driveway, a shared driveway is what they're considering this to be.
All right. So they're still going to need a de minimis determination under the.
Right. So what we'd like to see them do though is establish a building envelope, minimize clearing with respect to visual impacts, do a visual impacts analysis, have window glazing for those units that are going to be in the view shed to be low reflectivity on the glazing on those windows. Let's see, final health department approvals, of course. The grade actually isn't too bad. They actually got it down to -9.4%. Again, that's what the existing house looks like based on Google. I didn't get out there, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, just a view shed analysis would be first, where is this visible from? And then you could go
Yeah.
from there in terms of everything else, so.
Right. So shared driveway maintenance agreement, road maintenance agreement, Ulster County Department of Health approvals, or whether it's deeded stormwater as well. Again, fire district approvals, show all the easements on the plan. They should do they haven't done, they've mentioned bats, but there's no endangered species habitat analysis for the site. They should look at that. Visual impacts, like I said, and also sustainability comment, whether it can be including solar, using alternative fuels, etc.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the required modifications.
Comments,
Make that
questions?
motion.
Thank you. Who seconded it?
McLaughlin.
Thank you, Vince.
Okay,
They don't have any wetlands, right?
No, no wetland, no floodplain. It's up on a hill.
They may not have any water supply.
all right. Any further discussion?
This is Cindy Lanzetta. I'm just wondering, you mentioned the limits of disturbance in the window glazing. Can you put exterior finishing also and
Yes, good
color?
comment. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those opposed? And any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Getting close to the end, everybody. Okay, Robert Warsing, local law number 1.
Okay, so this is for the next two, for the map and for the zoning update. Up one, please. So we reviewed this back in May or June, I believe. And I think I included my previous response in with the packet for the board. So just to start off though, what I didn't note the first time around, a lot of the changes focus on this new resort economic development district, the planned recreational resort development district, the camping overlay, which we didn't have any comments on last time, nor did we have comments on the adaptive reuse or the more stringent camp regulations that they're having on. But overall, when you look at what they did, is they sent us the whole statute as a whole every time they've done it. And this is a very strong statute overall. There's a great attention to detail, focuses on design standards and guidelines for different portions of the town, focuses on rural character, wetlands, steep slopes, stream corridor protection. So there's a lot of good things in this code. And I think the last time when I wrote my review, I didn't compliment them on the good work that they did the first time. And I just want to make sure I did that. But previous recommendations were with respect to the resort and I don't know if everybody remember. Did I bring in I don't know if I brought in the zoning map this time, but there's a PRRD over for a PUD for the PRD, which is maybe at the Neville redevelopment, and also a red zone, which is between the village of Ellenville and in front of that whole area where the Neville site is. So the question we like to raise is, are these changes related to, is there a possible segmentation here? And we want to raise that question. The other question with respect to the red zone and to the PRRD, there's no requirement for these things when you're talking about resort developments for them to provide for housing for all those workers that are going to be on site. In fact, the PRRD code specifically says that the town's affordability requirements don't apply to the PRRD. So any units that they build there are basically timeshares for those types of homes in those developments. They're not counted. Other comment we made last time, I saw a lot of comments I'm making again. They have a 25 unit trigger for their 10% set aside at 100% of AMI. What that effectively does is make sure that nothing will be affordable because they actually have to hit that 25 unit threshold. We highly recommend that they lower it to 10 and do that 10% and go more towards an 80% of AMI. Again, we're asking for a GIS version or zoning map for inclusion on the county's geo database. I made the comment about providing for citing housing for workforce housing for red and the PRRD zones for the workers for those developments. And then another comment we made, these are comments that we made last time where we knew that they had comments, different developments like regulations on short-term rentals, accessory dwelling units, sustainability that were coming, but they hadn't addressed them yet. And these aren't actually my recommendations. So going to them back again. So I made that comment about the number and the income levels for affordability. Multifamily dwellings, what we like to see in their standards of their multifamily dwelling section is that they should have a standard, just put it right in there because they have a whole section on multifamily dwellings, should not be allowed to be used for short-term rentals. And again, the code specifically exempts housing and PRD. We recommend that they provide staff housing. It doesn't have to be within the resort complex itself. It could be out to the side of it, you know, screened away from it, but it should be provide for it within the zone. They should require electric vehicle charging for multifamily as well. The zoning map comment, so I get in a GIS format. Let's see. ADU. So the town, while they haven't updated their accessory dwelling units yet, they do have ADU regulations in the town, but they're very strict. They require 2 parking spaces, they require special permit or site plan review, and they have to be internal. They can't be detached structures. So I would like to offer back our standard comments that we've been issuing back to towns for increased flexibility, allowing them by right, allowing them for detached structures, making it an easier path for affordable. And again, making sure that they're not used for short-term rentals. Last time they had a whole section on the referral process in there, and I just wanted to update their language again. So they didn't change it again. I want to make sure it's refers to the county administrative code and correctly to GML processes in there. And the town has a very good section on different standards when you're going through the site plan review process, such as, for example, traffic. They have a whole, you will meet these traffic standards and we can provide a traffic analysis or require it. So they have all different goals and thresholds in their site plan review process that they have. So one thing I would like they should consider adding is sustainability goals as part of their site plan review. They should require applicants to make a showing of how they are providing for energy efficiency and lowering their carbon footprint. And also an advisory comment, they don't have any regulations for short-term rentals. They should be addressing that. That's all I got.
Motion to support staff, McLaughlin.
Second, McCarthy.
Right. Any further discussion on this? Good. All right. All those opposed? And any abstentions? All right. Motion passes. Yep. We were doing that for both, right? The map and the.
Yes, we were.
Okay, good. All right. Last but not least, Woodstock.
Can you hear me? Robert?
Yes, Victor.
Yeah, I voted no.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Okay.
I've been having difficulty getting on now, but I voted no. So thank you.
On our required modification on the comments we're making?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Victor.
Yeah, comments you're making. We did look at if that gateway meeting, if you look at the map, it had planned housing to the employees at the Neville. I think you omitted that, Robert. Dennis?
That's not correct.
Well, it was on the map that I saw. It said there was a staff housing, it was called.
We specifically asked
Well-
them with respect to the affordable provisions as it relates to housing, and they specifically said that
Dennis, I don't want to disagree with you. It
Well-
said staff housing.
all I can say is that we asked the question, and the answer that we got from your attorney and others was that they weren't going to include an affordable housing provision in the code.
Well,
or on the
that's-
site.
I'm talking about in the red zone there by the Neville. It did have a
It's not allowed.
section in the map.
Yeah, but we're talking about the statute, Vince.
Right.
All
But
right.
Victor, it's
Well,
not allowed use in the zoning.
All right, I
law.
understand. Okay. Thank you.
Victor.
All right, moving along to Woodstock, our last one. Man,
13 lot subdivision off Glasgow Turnpike. So as you can see, we're actually seeing a lot more subdivision activity throughout the county now, and more and realty subdivision activity, not just one lot, two lots. So in this case, what they tried to do, it's not a cluster subdivision, but the way they designed it is they avoided the wetlands. And as you know, town of Woodstock has more stringent wetland regulations than just the federal regulations. So while this proposal doesn't cross any wetlands, it crosses some of the town of Woodstock's wetland buffers. So what they're doing to accommodate that is they're increasing some trees along the road over in here. Oops, sorry about that. Actually, that shows it better anyway. There, and they're moving a stone wall associated with it. Let me go back to there. Actually, let me get the aerial real quick. So I know it's late. So this is the site in here. And I can show you the wetlands real quick. See it already. Yeah. It's just NWI federal wetlands on site. Back to the PowerPoint. And let's see, it's going to be, I believe, a private road at this point. I haven't seen whether they're doing an offer session or it's gonna be a private road on this. So I'll have to make that determination. But again, very similar comments to our other subdivisions. Final health department approvals. They've done a habitat sustainability report, but they just have to account for tree cutting sessions, make sure they don't disturb any nests. And they did provide their final SWIP to us. And sustainability comment, and also the school bus comment, because provide for an area for parking.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. McLaughlin.
About a second.
Mike Baden, second.
All right. Any further discussion on it?
So they couldn't consider any kind of cluster development. I mean, they're impacting a whole section of habitat in that big area. Just
The great comment, Amanda. We looked at it. I think the problem is that with no water or sewer, by the time you look at separations between the septic systems and the wells and all the wetlands, there's not a place where you can sit down and say, here's where you can put 3 or 4 houses. They just don't fit.
And actually, we did have one more comment, Dennis. We did want to see, are they putting the rest of the property into conservation?
Conservation easement. Yeah, that's
Right.
the back half of this property. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, we did want.
Amanda's comment is a good one. We kind of always look to see whether there's an opportunity for cluster. And you're right, this is a habitat core. We looked at this as, it's a habitat core area. Yeah, you'd like to think that there's a spot in there, but there just kind of isn't, Maybe on lot 10, you could get 2 units on lot 10, but the rest of them they're kind of hemmed in in terms of your ability to get separate units on there. You may be able to combine septic systems, but you know, it's not a good site to think about and say, well, here's an open field and we can cluster in the open field, and it works well. I'm pretty.
And actually, I think we did. I don't know if I made the comment on this one, but building envelope, minimizing number of trees, we can make that comment for certain. If I haven't made it already, that they should limit the disturbance of the existing natural vegetation and as much as they can.
That's a great comment, Rob, and I think maybe Amanda, that would be something you could say that that we want to keep as much habitat around these houses as we can, so that they don't turn them into lawns.
Yeah, if they could put a restriction on tree clearing, that would be great.
Establish a building envelope.
Yeah, so we could make that comment with the board's permission.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
This is Mitchell Cohen. I just have one issue with this. So there's one road going into this development, and the trees are going to be maintained next to the road. If one falls, no emergency vehicles have access.
You're correct. It's not an unusual situation, but you're correct in that instance. I think they're going to plant trees. I don't think they're going to maintain trees. Usually, I'm trying to think of the road widths here, Rob. You got a detail on
There's
the
a
road?
50-foot right of way, and let me see.
What's the road width? Is it?
It is. Wait, I can get it. Hang on a sec. 50 feet right away. Oh,
2 lane.
Yeah, it does not.
24 feet. 20 feet.
It's not saying.
But that's a great comment. I think we should say something about that as well. That there needs to be, make sure that the road's clear for fire vehicles to get in. But there's only what, 8 units back here, Rob?
Yeah, it's 8 lots. Oh, it's 13 lots. Excuse me.
I was going to say.
Yeah, you got me confused with the Sopus there. That one's 8 lots.
So let's make the comment with respect to the road that they need to have some concern about that.
Okay.
Utilities are underground. So I think the can you zoom in on the vegetation, Rob? In the front?
What I'm showing over here with the existing tree line? Or
yeah.
I don't know. You mean over in here?
No, yeah. You know what trees they are? What kind of trees they're talking about?
It said spruce someplace.
Yeah, they set quite a bit. They set quite a bit of ways back. So look, if you look at those, they're set at least a road width back, if not more. And they're relocating the stone wall.
Not too uncommon for the pine trees to grow to 60 feet in that area.
Yeah. So let's make that comment that we had some concern to make sure that they get enough clearing on that right away. That
All right. I'll just put a clearance comment.
Yeah, so they're putting those new.
They're new, yeah. But we don't know what they're doing the rest of the right of way.
No.
The other concern with those pine trees is they don't establish a really good root base, and those are one of the first ones that you see often uprooted.
So we can ask him for a mix of native species or different species, or
yeah.
They're probably just trying to keep evergreens in there as as a buffer.
Right.
Are you sure that they're evergreens? I'm not sure. Does it say evergreens?
Spruce.
Oh, spruce. Okay, I got it. Thank you. You're right.
Can we get a comment in there from fire district?
I think the fire district looked at it, Vince. I'm not sure.
I think I had a fire district comment in there actually. Already.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, they're spruce.
So go back to your comments, Rob, if you can.
Sure. I mean, we just added a whole bunch to it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go over them with you. So final health department, bats, sustainability, school bus, right away clearing, which is one comment. What was the other comment we had?
The building envelope, and also the conservation area.
That's right, and conservation area.
And yes, so the building envelope, does that include the restriction
thank you.
on tree clearing?
Yeah,
Yes,
well, nope, we'll add that one in. We'll add that as well.
Okay.
The one that Mitchell mentioned too.
And Mitchell's comment about emergency access.
Yep, that's the right of way clearing. Yep, I got it.
And Amanda, just so you know, when we typically say establish a building envelope, we tell them to do it on paper, but then also establish it in the field too. So they mark it off when they're doing construction.
So the building envelope is for habitat preservation, right? Got it. I'm following it. All right, so we added the right-of-way clearing, the conservation easement, and the building envelope for habitat preservation to these other 5 comments.
Yep.
Vince, are you okay with those?
Yeah, I'm fine with those.
And Mr. Bodden?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Okay.
Very good.
I think we're set, Drew.
Okay, all those opposed? And any abstentions? All right, motion passes. I think we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that, Gio.
Okay, anybody opposed to adjourning? And we're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great Halloween. Enjoy your weekend this week.
too.
Take care.
Next week, next
Oh, we're
month.
gonna be doing this next month like this?
Yes, as far as we know.